My name's Ethan, and if I ever had any questions about my place in my family, they vanished the day I stumbled across the will. It wasn't some grand orchestrated moment where my parents sat me down to break the news. No, I found out completely by chance, through pure coincidence. A few months back, I was at their house, the same house I'd been helping them keep afloat for the last 5 years. The mortgage payments, the occasional trips to the store, even patching up things around the place, I was the one holding it all together while my brother, Ryan, contributed absolutely nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. No job, no effort, just coasting through life, expecting everything to be handed to him on a golden platter, which my parents seemed all too eager to provide. That day, I was sorting through some documents for my dad because, as usual, neither he nor Mom could be bothered to deal with it themselves. He'd asked me to organize a pile of legal and financial papers, and I didn't think much of it until I spotted it. A folder labeled Estate Plan and Last Will. I'm not one to pry, but something urged me to look. After all, I'd been the one ensuring they had a home to live in. It didn't seem unreasonable to wonder how things were arranged for the future. So I opened it, and that's when my heart sank. Everything was left to Ryan. The house, their savings, their assets. Not a single mention of me except for some vague line about loving both their sons equally. Equally? Right. That's why they ensured their favorite son would inherit it all while the one keeping them afloat got nothing. I felt like an idiot. Here I was, sacrificing for them, making sure their bills were paid, ensuring they never went hungry, while they planned a future where I was left with nothing. And Ryan, he wasn't just idle. He was smug about it. He never helped, never pitched in a cent, yet somehow convinced them he deserved everything. Maybe because he was the younger son. Maybe because they always coddled him. Maybe because he knew how to play them. Whatever the reason, they'd made their choice. I sat there, staring at the document, my hands trembling with a mix of fury and heartbreak. How long had they planned this? Had they always seen me as their financial backup with no reward? Did they even value what I'd done? I don't know how long I sat there, but eventually Dad noticed I wasn't sorting anymore. "Ethan, what's taking so long?" he asked, strolling back into the room. I didn't bother hiding the will. I held it up and met his gaze. "So this is how it is," I said, my voice strangely steady. "Everything to Ryan? After all I've done for you?" His face paled briefly, but then he sighed like I was some kid throwing a fit. "Ethan, it's not what you think." "Really?" I shot back. "Because it looks pretty damn clear to me. I've been paying your mortgage, buying groceries, fixing the house while Ryan does nothing, and you still decided he's the only one who matters." Dad shifted uncomfortably but offered no real explanation, just mumbled, "It's complicated." That was it. No apology, no attempt to clarify beyond those 2 weak words. Just a lame excuse and a look like he expected me to let it go and resume being their cash machine. I could have left right then, but I needed to hear it from both of them. So I called for Mom. When she saw the will in my hands, she at least looked ashamed, but her words made my blood boil. "Ethan, sweetheart, you don't need an inheritance," she said softly, like she was doing me a favor. "You've got a good job. You're self-sufficient. Ryan, he struggles. We just want to make sure he's okay." That was when something in me broke. They weren't even pretending otherwise. They knew exactly what they were doing and thought it was fair. They'd spent years enabling Ryan's laziness, and now they were rewarding it by giving him everything while I was cast aside like a footnote. I took a deep breath, gritted my teeth, and placed the will on the table. "Got it," I said, my voice eerily calm. "Good to know where I stand." Then I turned and walked out, ignoring their protests as I shut the door behind me. They'd made their choice. Now it was my turn to make mine. I didn't return to their house after that. I didn't call. I didn't check in. For the first time in years, I let them deal with their own problems. If something needed fixing, they could figure it out. If they needed food, they could get to the store themselves. And most importantly, if the mortgage bill came, I wasn't paying it anymore. The silence lasted about 2 weeks. At first, I think they assumed I was just sulking and would come crawling back. Maybe they expected me to apologize for daring to question them. But as the days passed with no word from me and no money, their tone shifted. Then, one afternoon, my phone pinged. A text from Dad. "Property taxes are due." That was it. No, "Hey, how are you?" No, sorry for what happened. No, we appreciate all you've done. Just a blunt demand like I was still their personal bank. I stared at the message, almost amused by their predictability. They really thought they could demand cash like nothing had happened, that I'd keep playing my role after they made it clear I was expendable. I typed back, I'm sure Ryan can cover it since the house is his. Within 5 minutes, Mom called. I let it ring. Then another text. Ethan, please don't be like this. We need to talk. Oh, now they wanted to talk? Now that their bills were stacking up and reality was hitting them? I waited an hour before replying, there's nothing to discuss. You made your choice. Live with it. I thought that would end it for the day. I'd been crystal clear, and I didn't feel an ounce of guilt. But then Ryan decided to weigh in. His text arrived that evening, and the moment I saw his name, I knew it'd be infuriating. Sure enough, bro, why are you being so dramatic? It's not a big deal. Just help them out like always. I nearly laughed. Not a big deal? He was acting like I had no right to be upset. I replied, nah, you've got it handled. Since you're the favorite and all, he fired back. Seriously? You're mad about the will? Grow up, man. It's just money. Oh, now it was just money? Now that it was his to inherit, it didn't matter? The hypocrisy was staggering. I shot back. Then you won't mind using some of that money to pay the mortgage, right? Silence. A few minutes later, Mom texted again in full guilt trip mode. Ethan, we're your parents. Family supports each other. We did so much for you growing up, and now you're abandoning us? I had to breathe deeply to keep from hurling my phone. Abandoning them? I'd spent years ensuring they never struggled, while they babied Ryan and rewarded his laziness. And now that they faced the consequences of their choices, I was the villain? I wasn't falling for it. I responded, you made it clear I wasn't family when you left me out of the will. Now Ryan can take care of you. I could picture Mom clutching her pearls at that. She always played the victim, even when she was wrong. A few minutes later, Dad texted, and this one had me fuming. We're not asking for much. Just enough to cover the mortgage for a few months until we sort things out. Don't be selfish. Selfish? The word made my blood boil. I'd been bailing them out for years, giving up my own time, money, and energy. I'd done everything a good son should, and they repaid me by cutting me out. Now, when I finally stood up for myself, I was selfish? I clenched my jaw, took a breath, and typed, no, I'm done. Then I turned off my phone. They'd made their choice. Now they had to live with it. The silence lasted a day. I knew they wouldn't give up easily, but I wasn't prepared for what came next. The next morning, I woke to a bank transfer request notification. I frowned, unlocking my phone. It was from Mom, a request for $3,500. I stared in disbelief, half laughing at the nerve. No message, no explanation, just a shameless demand for the exact amount they needed for their overdue mortgage. They weren't even asking anymore. They assumed I'd cave. I declined it instantly. Within 5 minutes, Mom called. I let it ring. Then a text. Ethan, I know you saw the request. Why did you decline it? I took my time replying. Because it's not my problem. Ask Ryan. Another call. Ignored. Then another text. We'll lose the house if you don't help. Oh, now it was a crisis? After years of treating me like their wallet, they were finally facing consequences. I typed, maybe you should have thought about that before deciding I didn't matter. Seconds later, Dad texted, you're really gonna let your parents go homeless? I laughed out loud. The manipulation was so obvious it was almost comical. They weren't destitute. They just didn't want to touch their savings because they were used to me covering everything. I ignored them for the rest of the day. That night, Ryan texted, dude, just send the money. You're blowing this out of proportion. I gritted my teeth. This entitled brat thought he could lecture me? I replied, you mean the money you're inheriting? Why don't you send it? His response was quick. You know I don't have that kind of cash. Oh, so now it was about affordability? He was fine with me draining my savings, but when it was his turn, he had nothing? I shot back, guess you better figure it out, bro. You're the one they picked. No reply. I went to bed feeling oddly at peace, like I'd finally broken free from years of manipulation. But the next day, things escalated. I was at work when my apartment's front desk called. Hey, Ethan, your parents are here? I nearly dropped my phone. What? The receptionist hesitated. They say it's an emergency and you're not answering their calls. Oh my God. They showed up at my apartment because I stopped paying their bills? I took a deep breath. pinching my nose.